Okay, today we're going to be taking notes over the microscope. So if you would take out those notes, follow along as we go through these notes, starting with um, what the microscope is and what it looks like. Obviously, we've got a couple of things on a microscope, one of those being the eyepiece, which is right up here. In this eyepiece, it is obviously the part that you look through, and it also has a magnification of about 10 times. That's what you're going to be writing down as number 9, I believe. As we move through the microscope, we've got something right here down at the bottom, which is called a nose piece. The reason it's called a nose piece is because it holds and rotates to change from one of these objective lenses to another. And those objectives we'll get to here in a second, but those are the magnifiers. Here are these objectives. We've got 3 of them. So they're attached to that nose piece, which is right up here at the top. And on that nose piece, the smallest one right here is actually called the scanning power objective. This one right here. This is called the scanning power objective. This is the lowest power that you could use. We always use this one first. Whenever you begin using that microscope, you're going to use that small one first. So you always flip over to it. It is our smallest magnification of only 4 times. The next one is our medium-sized one, which is right here in the back, that yellow one back there. And that one is our low power is what we call it. Low power because it's only a 10 magnification, 10 times magnification. And our last one is this very large one right here, and this is our high-powered objective. This is the one that you use last, and the reason that we use it last we'll get to in a little bit, but it is a 40 times magnification, so 40 times the size of what it usually is. And again, that's our biggest one. These are our objective lenses that help us view smaller things on a microscope. All right, so our next thing is called this stage. The stage is the platform that supports our slide, which is just this big table-looking thing right here in the middle of this microscope. On the stage, there are 2 little clips that we call stage clips. These stage clips hold the glass and the specimen in place. And when I'm talking about a specimen, what I'm talking about is the object that you're looking at underneath the microscope. That's all we're saying whenever we're talking about a specimen. All right. Next we have a diaphragm. The diaphragm, similar to what you have on your body right above your stomach, which is something that helps push air into you. Anyways, it's in the middle of your body, which is also in the middle of the microscope. And what you can do is you can change it or turn this little dial from left to right to change the amount of light that enters into the eyepiece at the top of the microscope. So it changes the amount of light in there. That's very important to know. Again, that's the diaphragm. Moving on from the diaphragm, we have our lamp and our mirror, which is at the very, very bottom of the microscope. And this is that source of light that gets into the microscope. You will always have to, let me go back here, turn it on using this little knob right here after you plug it in. And that sends the light up into the microscope. Lastly, our last couple of ones, we have our base, which is down here at the bottom. It supports the whole microscope. Next, we have this little dial over here, which is called a coarse adjustment knob, which is listed right here. Coarse adjustment knob. In this coarse adjustment knob, what this is doing is this brings our object that's on the microscope into a rapid but coarse focus. Coarse meaning a imperfect or a rough focus. It changes the focus of it very drastically. And what that coarse adjustment knob is doing is technically it's taking the stage, which is that little table that it's sitting on, and it's moving it up. It's moving it up very quickly. So it's taking that whole stage and moving it up, and it brings it to focus. You can only use this coarse adjustment knob on the scanning objective lens, which is the very, very small one. If we use it on a very, very large objective lens, what that table will do is it will begin going up, and our very, very big objective lens will end up hitting this thing, and it will just crack, and it'll make a big mess. You like my little crack there? But it'll make a big mess. You'll break my microscope, and it will cost a lot of money. So our next adjustment knob is our fine adjustment knob. On that fine adjustment knob, what that's there for is it brings objects slowly into a fine or a very crisp, clear focus. So now, again, we're still taking that stage and we're moving it up, but we're moving it up barely any amounts so that it brings it into focus very clearly. You can use this on any of our objective lenses. Any of those lenses will help us focus on this fine adjustment knob. We're always going to use the coarse adjustment first, again, just like we're using our scanning objective lens first, just because it is easier to focus that way. Lastly, we have our arm, which is this side over here. The arm is used to carry your microscope, and that about does it for all of our parts of the microscope. What we would be looking into some of these are some leaves, just like this. You can see all these small cells inside them. In a microscope, if you haven't used one before, you can see people's blood, which we might be taking a look at. And then lastly, we also could see cheek cells or cells that are coming from your tongue or anything like that. And that would come from something that looks like that. We're always going to handle our slides or our microscope slides from the edges so that we don't get fingerprints. And that would look something like this.